Welcome to Streams of Income, hosted by best-selling author and entrepreneur Dr. David Powers, where we discuss streams of income, passive income, residual income, and even why there are dinosaurs and zombies in this intro. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready to dive in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Streams of Income podcast. I'm here with Jon Sanders, an amazing guy. And before he even talks, I don't know if you're watching the video or listening to this, but this dude sounds like a mix between James Earl Jones and John Maxwell. I mean, like total preacher voice. And you're going to understand why he's got a preacher voice, too. But he's pretty amazing. And before he comes on, though, I want to apologize on behalf of him. I just got over the flu, and if I start coughing and sneezing and snotting and everything, it's not his fault. He sounds amazing. I may not. And
just
so
don't
with
puke
that,
on me, all right?
Yeah, I'll spray the screen. So Jon Sanders is with us, and man, Jon, you were into so much and have been into so much over the years. But your main thing now, though, I guess we'll start at the beginning or the end, and then we'll rewind. So what is your main thing right now?
Well, that is the $1 million question, and thank you for the very kind intro, and thank you for having me on the show. You know, there's common wisdom out there, and I think it's good advice for a lot of people, and I'm still questioning if it's good advice for me, if I need to follow it. It's that whole thing of just find the one thing and focus on the one thing and do it really well. And that if I were to actually give that advice without the caveat of, oh, by the way, I'm not doing that, it would be very hypocritical, because I've got several things going. And if you were to tell me, Jon, you just have to pick one of them and just lean hard into that one thing, that's a very de-energizing thought to me. And so I don't know if I'm an exception to that rule, or if I'm just going to find out the hard way that, no, I really should have just picked one path and only done the one thing, because I feel like I have a little bit of capacity to have several irons in the fire at the same time and manage some things. So I can dive into all the things I'm doing currently, but I can't whittle it down to the one thing. So that's a tough question to answer.
I'll tell you what, I see that big EP behind you. So let's hit that one first, and then we'll get into the more hands-on occupations.
Yeah. Very good. So Entre Pastors is what that EP stands for. That's our logo in the backdrop there for those that can see the video. But it's Entre Pastors is an online platform that myself and a partner by the name of Les Hughes launched about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago now. And we are both in pastoral ministry. We both have grown up in it, as our dads were both pastors, and we've been doing it a long time. Les longer than me, because he's a lot older than me. But we help pastors launch entrepreneurial businesses as a way to provide better for their families. We are just done with the narrative of saying yes to serving the Lord is synonymous with being broke and barely getting by. And our answer to help pastors get paid better is not, let's try to help figure out how to get more out of the church budget or the offering. That's usually a very uphill, sometimes even impossible challenge, just with the real limitations that many small churches face, and then also just the stigma and the narrative and the mindset around pastors shouldn't make much money. So our solution is not, how can we get more out of the church? It's, let's get you out into the marketplace, help you figure out how to solve a problem for someone in the marketplace around a business or a side hustle that you're doing, and get paid for doing it. And the sky is the limit at that point. We can remove that ceiling on your earning potential and really help you, whether it's just a little bit of breathing room you need each month for your family, or if you really want to build a significant business that would be an asset to pass on to to your family in the future or whatever, we'll help you build that and grow that. So that's what Entre Pastors is.
Yeah. I'm a little confused, because I was under the impression that pastors were supposed to live in the house provided by the church, 6 kids in 1 bedroom, always drive a car at least a year older than anybody else in the congregation, and only have hand-me-down furniture and clothing. You mean pastors are not supposed to be that way?
We're trying to break down that narrative. The reason you think that way is because you grew up in church, I'm guessing, and that's just
Independent Baptist, man.
Yeah, amen. And me too. And that, it's nobody taught me that that's what ministry was. It's just what was given to me. It's what was modeled to me. I didn't question it until I did. And then it was like, once I started questioning it, I'm like, this is silly. How this model that we've built around traditional full-time vocational pastoring that has pastors 100% dependent upon a church that doesn't pay them very well to begin with. They can be sent down the road at any point if, Gladys gets mad about something that happens in the church. And like, I just love, I think it's really healthy, not only for the pastor, but even for the churches they lead. It's really healthy when the pastor is thriving financially and not in destitute dependence upon the church for some scraps to live on. And so I have just boldly come to the place of declaring that message and that mission. And it doesn't sit well with everybody. More and more people get it and they're like, yeah, that's good. But there's still that old school mentality of like, no, I'm kind of comfortable with a pastor who's broke and not making it very well. Like that makes sense to me. I'm not really comfortable with the thought of a pastor who runs a 7-figure business or a 6-figure business in addition to leading a church. It's really hard to control a pastor who doesn't need my money and doesn't need the paycheck that we're signing. So like, that's a real thing. I know it sounds cynical, but it's a real thing. And we're helping set pastors free from that all over the country. Yeah,
that's amazing. And where do people get in touch with that, Entre Pastors?
Yeah, if you want to learn more there or connect with any of our programs or our podcast, if it's entrepastors.com. We just took the word entrepreneur and shoved it up against the word pastor, and we made a new word, entrepastors.com.
All right. I love it. And before I forget, another reference to behind you, if you want to give a shout out, didn't somebody design your background there for you?
Well, my son helped me with the camera. My son is incredible with video stuff and lighting, so he helped kind of set up my studio. The backdrop's nothing fancy. It's just a lot of books that I've read, organized in color-coordinated rainbow effect there, but my wife helped me color code those books. But other than that, the lighting is all my son just kind of helped me with the backdrop on all that. So it was a huge upgrade from the webcam that I had been using before that.
Yeah, I've just still got I'm in a basement office, and so I got the old fireplace, and it's an old farmhouse, and so I've not remodeled anything yet. We're going to eventually just burn this thing down and build another one.
Yeah.
But
You could do some cool stuff with what's behind you, though, just some lighting and stuff. That fireplace is cool, man. It kind of fits your vibe and everything. So just a little bit of work, we could really have that popping for you. So.
Yeah, definitely. So you said you're still involved in pastoral things. So are you
yes.
On staff somewhere, or just more of an evangelist type, or what?
Yeah, no, I am on staff at New Life Church in downtown Sioux Falls. I've been there for about the last 2.5 years or so in a formal capacity. I preach about once a month, which is really it's enjoyable for me because it's not nearly the lift that I was doing when I was a lead pastor preaching almost every weekend. And still lets me be in the game and use some of my gifts there, but not carry near as much weight as I used to as a church planter and lead pastor for many years. So I still enjoy it.
Yeah, okay. And Sioux Falls, remind me where that is geographically.
That is in South Dakota, almost up to Canada, but not quite.
Okay, almost at the top.
No, I lied. We're in southern South Dakota. It's just cold, so like people don't know where the Dakotas are. They don't even know there's 2 of them. So we're so forgotten out here in South Dakota. It's crazy. But no, we're in the southern part of the state.
What is it? Rapid City, where the
that's on the west side. That's on the complete opposite side of the state. That's in the Black Hills, where you've got like Mount Rushmore and Custer State Park and the Sturgis Bike Rally. You got a lot of tourist stuff going on out there in the west side.
Okay, I've been there before. It's pretty cool. And I drove through the Badlands and spent some time hiking there. I mean, it's a beautiful area. People don't realize how beautiful South Dakota is. I mean, they
really is.
Even the cold.
Even where I am, the cold is not beautiful. I hate every bit of winter and snow. If I never saw another flake of snow, I'd be thrilled. But even where I live on the prairie on the east side, it still is beautiful. It has a beauty all its own. But it's a great place to live. If the winter can be brutal. But other than that, great people. We got a lot of freedom out here and a lot of space, and it's a good place to raise a family and build a business and do life.
Yeah. And let's see, Governor Noem, was that South Dakota or North Dakota?
Yep, she was our governor. She just got appointed as the Secretary of Homeland Security under the new administration.
That's pretty cool.
So she's moving up in the world.
Yeah, looked like she went through pretty easy too compared to some of the others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, and so. We covered 2 of those things. Now, I know of another one you do, firefighting. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what got you into it, and what keeps you there?
Yeah, so I'll tell you kind of that story as quick as I can. I grew up in the home of a pastor, as I said. I knew I did not want to be a pastor. I had a great experience in ministry, but when I was young, I knew I wanted to be like a cop or a firefighter. And in high school, I really leaned heavily into the fire service. I thought that's what I want to do. That looks cool. Great choice, by the way. Like that's the one thing cops and firefighters all have in common is that they all wanted to be firefighters at one time. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I basically really set my sights on that as a young man, pursuing a career in the fire service. And at the age of 21, I went to work for the Peoria Fire Department in Peoria, Illinois. I thought had it all mapped out, man. 30 years, I'd have my full pension, retire at the age of 51 with, plenty of life left, Lord willing, to
Yeah.
do something else. And then God just messed up all my plans. Like he pursued me and called me into pastoral ministry to preach the gospel. I believe me when I tell you I did my absolute best to outrun that calling and like, God, this is a train wreck. Like you've got the wrong guy. And eventually he got through to me and I surrendered and we then left our home there in Peoria and we moved out to where I am now in South Dakota to plant a church. So when
Okay.
that happened, I left my full-time career in the fire service. We moved out here. I still was involved at a volunteer level with my small town local fire department and then our county ambulance service. Heard there was a
Mhm.
new kid in town that was a EMT and a firefighter, so
Yeah.
they hired me to, work some part-time shifts. So I did that for a few more years. And then I just thought as our church was growing, like that whole season of my life, I thought was done. Like it's just time to hang it up. And I stepped away from it. Well, fast forward a few years later, our church had really grown into like 6 different locations. And
No.
I had this wild opportunity. Here I was, a full-time pastor of a growing church. And I had this crazy opportunity presented to me of going in back into the full-time fire service with the city of Sioux Falls. And it wasn't really something I pursued. It honestly kind of was dropped in my lap. The question of
Yeah.
if you want it, you can apply. Here it is. And I said to my wife something about, I should maybe think about doing that. And she said, because literally when I learned of it, I had like 5 hours to apply before they closed the application. And I thought she'd just dismiss it and say, you're too old for that, grandpa, or whatever. But she said, you should. She said, I think you could do both. You could pastor a church and be back in the fire service. And that really kind of made my head spin. By the
Yeah.
way, that's a little bit behind the Entree Pastors Foundation because I had to go through some real soul searching. Like, is it okay for a pastor to have 2 jobs when technically he's making a massive $50,000
Mhm.
full-time salary and doesn't need the money? I thought.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like I really in that season of praying and seeking God's permission and blessing in that, I really sensed peace. It took a year. It took literally 364 days from the day I applied to the day they hired me. It's a very long, grueling testing
Yeah.
process, a lot of waiting. And somewhere in that journey, I really just got this incredible sense of peace. Not only that God was saying it's okay, but that he was going to give it to me. I came home from a 5-mile walk one day and I just told my wife, I said, I'm pretty sure God told me he's going to let me have the job and he's giving it back to me if I want it. And so I'm happy to say my church at the time was supportive for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a lot of the blessing of our people. Not everyone was thrilled with the idea of their full-time pastor having a full-time job. But for the last 5 years that I was leading in that capacity as a church planter and full-time pastor, I was also working as a full-time firefighter, and I still do that to this day. I've been with the city of Sioux Falls now for about 9 years, a little over 9 years,
Yeah.
and I'm still having fun. At some point, I could probably quit and walk away, but I still enjoy showing up to the fire station. I still get fulfillment in that, and so I'll keep doing it until it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's a neat imagery there too of a pastor saving people from hell, both, physically and spiritually. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't do the saving, but I get what you're saying. I can be the mouthpiece and the hands and feet and all of that. So yeah, it is kind of a cool imagery to think that. And by the way, I've noticed just because I've had my feet firmly planted in both those worlds of pastoral ministry and first responder, firefighting, EMS, like there are a ton of similarities between those two
Yeah.
roles. There really are. Beyond just the eternal thing, like just yeah, there's so many similarities because in their own right, pastors are first responders to trauma and on the scene of sorrow and dealing with their own traumatic responses to all the stuff. So yeah, I could go on and on about the similarities between those
Yeah.
two industries, if you will.
Yeah. And when I worked EMS, we had 24/48 shifts, and it was like the perfect shift to have several jobs.
Yeah.
And are you guys like that? What kind of shifts you guys work?
It's similar. When I was in Peoria, we had the 24 on, 48 off. And now where I'm at in Sioux Falls, it's a little different. You still we do work 24-hour shifts, and you still end up working about 10 days a month on duty at the station. But we do what's called a 3-day hitch. So like imagine like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are your work days. And then you have a 4-day break, and then you'll come back and do another 3-day hitch like that.
Okay.
So there's a day off in between those 3 days that you're on. And then once you get to the end of that 3-day hitch, you have a 4-day break. And then the other thing that really just makes it so incredible to work around your life is the fact that we can trade time with guys on other shifts. And so, the bad news about trading time is you have to pay it back, which means that now you're going to be working 48 hours or sometimes 72 hours at the fire station, depending on where it falls in your schedule. But you can line up a significant amount of time away from the station to travel or to do other things. And so it really is a unique job. That's, by the way, that's why I knew, and that's why my wife knew that I could also pastor a church full-time and be a full-time firefighter. I had to do some arranging with the schedule to make that happen and to be available on Sundays, but it can work, and it's a good career to be able to work around other things. Plus, the average kind of makeup or profile of a typical firefighter is someone with ADD who doesn't sit still anyway, and so most firefighters, when they're off shift, they don't just go at home and sit and do nothing. Like we're not capable of doing that. We have to go do something or we'll get into trouble. So that's where a lot of these guys work full, other jobs, or they run businesses of their own or whatever. It's a good career for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we had lots of downtime too at some of the stations anyway. And our, after the training and the cleaning and everything else was done, our downtime was pretty much our own. So, I mean, like sermon prep, reading a book, whatever.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty cool to get paid to do, while you're actually doing something else.
Yeah. And like on one hand, they don't want us broadcasting that, and I get it. And on the other hand, it's like, well, I mean, I can sit and watch TV, or I can sit and read a book that's helping me develop something, an idea or something else. So yeah, I try to use my downtime at the station wisely and use it for things that matter more than just, watching TV or scrolling Facebook. Not to say we don't watch TV and scroll Facebook at the station every now and then, but yeah, there's plenty of other like real work to be done there. But then because you're there for 24 hours, you're going to have a little bit of downtime and some free time to yourself. And it's up to you how you want to use that, I guess. I try to use it productively.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move on into the handyman business. I see your posts, and we've talked about that a little bit. So in addition to all this other stuff, you run a handyman business, a thriving handyman business.
Yeah, I started that a little over probably about 3 years ago as well, maybe 2.5 years ago. And the true story behind why I started that is I had income that was coming in from a coaching business I had started from a different platform I had built for pastors called the Small Town Big Church Podcast. I was creating content really for like small town rural church leaders, and I started doing some coaching around that and developed some income, a significant stream of income. Well, eventually, as I got more and more keyed into this Entre Pastors message, I decided to sell that other platform altogether unless I started this new platform called Entre Pastors. So what was happening is my income was kind of starting to dwindle from some of those other coaching clients as they would time out or whatever and move on. And we hadn't really ramped up Entre Pastors yet to fill that. And so personally, my cash flow was starting to get to a place I wasn't comfortable. And I was like, I'm not going back to what it used to be. I had done enough interviews through the Entre Pastors podcast of pastors who are out in the marketplace with businesses of their own. And the ones that I saw who were thriving the most, or maybe I should say the quickest, were those who were willing to go do a service-based thing. Like it was such a common story to hear a pastor say, I started a little painting business, and within 6-8 months, we paid off all our debt. We were able to do X, Y, Z. I just saw like there is a built-in market already for people are looking as we speak on Google for who can fix my fence, who can paint my living room. versus some of the other pastors who we're working with who really are struggling to like get a writing business up and going and sell their books or become, paid to speak on stages or coach. You can get paid to do all those things. It's just, it takes time to build that audience and to tap into that, versus if you put your shingle out and say, I can mow your lawn, I can pressure wash your driveway, I can paint your whatever, like there's an instant market built into that. So I needed cash flow, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to, A, because I need the money, and two, because I want to model for my community kind of, I'm smoking what I'm selling. Like, I'm going to start a little business and run that in addition to, telling other pastors they should start a business. And man, it was just incredible. I got into that, and just immediately what I started to find is there's a huge market for it. And then if you apply some pastoral skills, this is what I tell our pastors all the time, like, you have spent your entire professional career in some cases inside the four walls of a church, developing teams, building people, building a culture. If you just bring that skill set to the marketplace, what I quickly realized is I don't have to be the guy out doing all this work by myself. I can build a team, and eventually I can step back from being on the front lines of that, and I can just love on and support my team and manage that and bless other guys to go out and do the work. And that's exactly what I've been doing with Dakota Small Jobs. And it's still a pretty part-time business, but for the fact that I don't sit and run it as a full-time business, being my only focus, to see the progress that it's made and the income that it's produced, it's been incredible. And it often makes me stop and think, and what would that look like if you did just do that one thing and only that one thing? But again, I could probably say that about every single thing I'm involved in, going back to the beginning of this conversation. So yeah, it's been kind of a fun ride, and I'm not super passionate about like home repair, but I am passionate about business. I'm passionate about serving people, and I love building teams. So it's like, okay, I see where I can really kind of lean into this and bring my gifts to the table. And it became interesting all of a sudden, rather than just a way to make a few extra bucks. It was like, man, I could actually build a business here. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah. And just so everybody realizes too, you're not the guy that's actually doing all the work.
Right.
You're running
100%.
an amazing team. You're hiring passionate guys that are great at sheetrock or fencing or carpentry or whatever, and then turning them loose.
Yeah. And I'll add this too, to anyone in that space, if you're thinking about going into the home services space, if you are a professional person, if you're clean cut, if you're kind to people, if you have emotional, just even a little bit of emotional intelligence, you are miles ahead of so much of your competition. And I'm not saying that to be critical or ugly. I'm just saying, if you have basic people skills to like actually, and to serve a customer, to actually pick up the phone when they call, to return a call, be sitting down when you hear me say this, show up on time when you said to the customer you would be there. Like, don't ghost them. If you can do just that bare minimum, you've already risen above probably 85-90% of the competition out there. And you should still be better than just that. But man, if you can just bring that to the table, you can start setting yourself apart immensely from the competition, and then charge a professional rate. I promise you, David, I am the most expensive handyman service in Sioux Falls. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if there was anybody out there charging more than me. And do I have people say no to my offers and my quotes from time to time? Yes. But I have plenty who say yes because they see the value is not even in the fact that we're going to do a job, because we'll do the job and we'll do it well. But far more than that, when we show up, again, we're going to be there when we say we will. We're going to be trustworthy. We have integrity. We're not going to steal from you. You can trust one of my technicians if they come into your home when it's just your wife and your kid there. Like, they're not going to be sketched out by who is this guy that's in our home. Like that. How do you put a price on that? What's that worth?
Exactly.
People who see that recognize it and go, man, I'll pay for that. So if you can do that, man, the sky's the limit in terms of the business you can build in the home services space, because it's so other than what is normally found in the marketplace.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in, my dad owns an exterior remodeling company, and so I grew up in that. And I used to do the estimates for him, and just people would call 4 or 5 contractors to get estimates, and I'd be the only guy to show up sometimes. And of course, I was a little more clean shaven then, but to be honest with you, it didn't matter. I showed up.
Yeah,
And it
that's
didn't
half
matter
the
if it's a guy
battle.
with a beard or not. Yeah. And
And
it was pretty
when I
amazing.
say clean, I don't mean that you can't have facial hair or even a big old bushy beard, because that works, man. Like what you're rocking works, but it's the manner in which you carry it. It's the manner
Yeah.
in which you show up, the posture that you're carrying yourself, your ability to look someone in the eye, shake their hand, just be a decent human being and provide good customer service. That's really more what I'm talking about
Yeah.
versus someone that's just, you wonder which prison they just got out of before they
Yeah.
started their
Exactly.
business, that type of a thing.
Yeah. Tattoos of naked women on their forearms and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And we would have guys like that apply for jobs with us. And you could be the best installer in the world, but unless you were willing to wear long sleeves every day to work, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and you could be mad about that, or you can just embrace like people make instant judgment calls. Those judgment calls may not always be right. Most of the time, much of the time, they probably are right, because how we're presenting ourselves does say some things about us. But the bottom line is they're making instant impressions when they see you, even before they meet you. And this is going to sound so ridiculous. Very early on in being a handyman, like as in right away, I knew I needed help just like doing a system of doing the quotes and the invoicing and all of that. So I invested a little bit of money into a software to do that.
Yeah.
And just the fact that somebody got a quote emailed to them and it had a logo on it with an actual company sounding, email address, and
Yeah.
not, something at AOL.com. It like they're just blown away by that. They're like, wow, I knew you were a pro. And they think I'm this huge company. And in
Yeah.
reality, it's like, man, I'm really just kind of been doing this part-time for a few short years and not even that great of a handyman, if the truth be told. But I do know how to like build a team and treat people well. And I think that's the special sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And we were talking before, you've actually got other guys calling you up wanting to know how to do the handyman stuff.
Yeah, like I'm flirting right now with the idea or the invitation of, I don't know whether I franchise this, and I hesitate to even say that because it's like, what is there to franchise? Or to like actually start another location of
Yeah.
Dakota Small Jobs. And I have several other opportunities in other states and my own state where I've got some relationships where people are saying, "Hey, let's talk about this. What would it look like to start that here?" And so I'm tempted, and maybe I should just speak a word to the entrepreneurs here, and maybe this is growth and wisdom on my part. My natural default setting is just to go for it, because
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, we see all the good, we see all the opportunity and only the possible best that could come from
Yep.
something. And we rarely slow down, at least I rarely slow down enough to go, okay, but what could happen here? What are some things, contingencies we need to think about? And I guess I'm going to say I'm a little bit proud of myself. I've thought about this for a little, and it's not out of fear. It's more just
Yeah.
like, maybe this isn't the time to overextend. Maybe I do need to like grow slow. So I'm not saying we'll never do it. I promise I'm leaning in those directions, but I'm maybe doing it with a little bit more discipline than the me of 5,
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago would have done it. I'd have just jumped in and
Yeah.
said, let's go. So we'll see. Talk to me in a week. Maybe all that'll have
Yeah.
changed, and I'll be like, I've got 4 new locations, so I have no idea what we're doing, but we'll see. It is an
I will
interesting
talk
thing
to you in a
think
week, man.
about.
I'll see you next week down in Florida.
That's right. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be
Yep.
awesome.
Hey, a third option that I've heard of before, not just the franchising or doing it yourself, but the business opportunity package.
Tell me
I've
about
seen
that.
some businesses do that where it's they sell the training package and the links to all the software and all that kind of stuff, and basically they sell the business in a book, so to speak. And that way, if you don't want to mess with all the franchise having to manage all that and everything, it's
Is
one
that
way to
just a
sell the
one-time
completely.
cost then, a one and done type of a thing?
I've seen people do it both ways, like a one time where you just buy it in a package, or you could, I mean, like we learn about with the membership stuff, you could do it with a membership where there's coaching involved, things like that.
That's interesting. I'll tell you, and I don't care if this turns into just a coaching conversation. You can coach me. And everyone else can listen in. What I see happening here is people are reaching out to me. They have the technical skill to do the work. They either lack the skill or the confidence to do the business side of it. And
Okay.
that's where I see maybe a key partnership of like, well, we could do that. We could have a call center here, for the lack of a
Yeah.
better word. I could create a forward-facing website that's more local, and a local phone number that just forwards right in here.
Yeah.
And my team could handle all of that, and then let the team there do what you do best, which is you go do the
Yeah.
technical stuff. And that's the part where, when you talk about like selling the business, I'm like, I don't know, with the relationships I'm talking to right now, if that's the right option,
Yeah.
and I
You've got
see.
access to the VAs too that could do all the social media and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is all, I don't want to say it's easy, but it is simple. Like, there's a solution to those problems of like, you don't have to be the one to do all that. You build a team, and not everyone is wired that way. I recognize that. Some people genuinely would prefer to have a business that it's just me. I don't have any team members to think about or worry about. Nothing wrong with that at all. Like, if that's how you're wired, that's great. I can see that, but I just really thrive on a team. I recognize that about myself as I look back over my life. I've been drawn to environments where there is a team element, and even
Yeah.
in the fire service, like, I don't want to just do it by myself. I thrive as a part of a team, and
Yeah.
so I'm good with that. And build the team. That's to me is the solution to a lot of problems. It's not. There's the book out there, Who Not How. Rather than wrestling
Yeah.
with the question of how do I do this, it's who do I get to do this? Who
Yeah.
can do this for me?
Yeah. Man, I like this. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this as it develops.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, man,
We've got one other business
Yeah.
too. I don't know if
Oh, that's
if
what I
you
was going
would-
to ask you what I missed.
Yeah, so the other one that we just launched back in the fall, my son and I launched a custom blinds, window treatments, shades,
Okay.
shutters,
Yeah.
all of that. 605 Blinds is the name of that. 605 is the area code for the entire state of South Dakota. So it's kind of a thing up here. There's 605 whatever, and so we named our company 605 Blinds, and we're getting. And I'll tell you, it's so much fun. My kids are older. My oldest son is 25 at the time of this recording. My youngest son is 18, soon to be 19. Like, it is so much fun to have those guys involved in these businesses and to be doing it with them. Like, because eventually someday, if we do this well, this will be something that I can hand off to them and as an asset for them to continue to run with if they desire. I mean, I'm not going to force them into that mold, but I can see where this would be something that would really let us as father and sons do some really cool stuff together, even beyond the business itself. Just what kind of projects do we want to build together? What do we want to invest in together? What do we want to, be generous to together? And what kind of legacy and impact do we want to make through our family's business endeavor? So it's kind of fun to think about. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. Well, in terms of niching too, I like the idea that you didn't just try to do both of those things as the handyman. Like, there's enough specialization in blinds and window coverings that it's its own thing.
Yeah, and a quick backstory there. My brother has been in that space for 20 years, so I've watched him. I've had kind of a front row seat to watch him really build a successful thing. And then I've hired him, my son and I have hired him as our coach for the first 5 years. He literally has a vested financial interest in seeing our business thrive. So he's been instrumental in helping us get that up and off the ground. But to the handyman thing, that's one of the frustrating things about that work is like you're a jack of all trade, a master of none. And you'll never get away from that. There's always going to be a need for that person who is a generalist, who can just kind of come in and do a lot of things. But from the beginning, I've often said, man, it'd be cool if you just had a business that did this one thing. You only carried the tools for that one job. And the blinds thing kind of scratched that itch. So again, rather than choosing, well, which do I pick? I just said, I pick both. And we'll keep this other thing going, at least for now, the handyman business. And then we'll build this. So, and again, I'm not doing these all by myself. I'm bringing others into the project with me and getting more accomplished together. That's why I completely stress, again, just working with a team and working with and through other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like all this. It's just the breadth of everything that you do, because a lot of people, they run into exactly what you talked about. Everybody tells them you can only do one thing and do that well and don't try to do anything else. But some of us, I mean, whether you call us multipreneurs or whatever, I would get bored if I only tried to do one thing. I mean, that would just be miserable to me.
Yeah, I think, and I want to be really careful and clear on this. I still think that's good advice. I really believe, like, sometimes I'm a little jealous of people who just have the one thing. I'm like, that must be
Yeah.
kind of cool. But I think that's where I've come to ask the question of myself, like, is this a flaw in me that I constantly, have these irons in the fire, or is it a feature? Is it part of who and how God made me to operate and how to be and how to operate is that I do have capacity to do several things at once. So I don't
Yeah.
know. The jury's still out on that, but I'll let you know when I figure it out if it's a flaw or a feature, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right. So, is there anything else I've missed? Any other like active streams of income that?
Man, those are the big ones right now. I mean, that's the various things that I'm doing to bring income in. I have a lot of thoughts of other maybe more passive things I'd like to get into as I continue to generate income. But again, as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, I see opportunity everywhere. So every time I'm scrolling a TikTok video, I'm like, "Ooh, that looks like a cool business. We should start that." So, I don't know where I'll be 5, 10 years from today, but I promise if I'm still here and have health and breath, I'll be doing something with building and buying and selling businesses because
Yeah.
I just enjoy it. I've come to find a lot of joy in it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'll start closing out. So I got two big questions for you to kind of close out. The first one, it may be a really hard, maybe the hardest question I've asked you the whole time. What are the prospects for the Vikings next year?
Whew. Well, considering that they completely blew me away this year, like I was not expecting anything, so I don't know. I've been a Vikings fan my entire life. I've just learned you don't get your hopes up. The minute you do, they crush them against the rock. So it's
Yeah.
you noticed I've got the helmet behind me on the
Yep.
shelf. It's kind of my symbol of struggle and disappointment and getting back up and renewed hope and crushed hope and all the things. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. You just
Next
never know.
question.
But if they make it, we'll celebrate. If they don't, it's just another
Yeah.
year.
I don't know that I'm ever going to see my Vikings in a Super Bowl. There's a lot of things that would have to come into alignment for that to happen.
Yeah.
So
All right, and the last one, if you could recommend a couple of good books, like if other than the Bible, of course,
for sure.
rely,
Yeah.
rely
Well,
on that one, but some good books that you'd recommend people read for business, entrepreneur, whatever.
I'm going to give you four. They're all business related. Two are basic, regardless of what business you're in. The one is called E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth
That's an amazing
revisited.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I've read it several times and I'm going through it again right now, just really trying to. The big point of that book is work on your business, not in your business. You got to
yeah,
get out of that role of being a technician and get into that role of being an owner. And they're not the same role. And a lot of small businesses, the owner is the primary technician, and that's where a lot of struggle comes from, and you feel like you're spinning your wheels. So E-Myth is a great book. Another one is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. It's this idea that as a small
you name
business,
books
you
that
got
have
it?
a permanent place on my shelf, man.
Yeah, it's a great book, and as we speak, I'm in the process of like bringing both of those businesses under that profit first model. I've hired one of Mike Michalowicz's profit first professionals as a
Oh, really?
bookkeeper, and yeah, I'm going all in on this because
Yeah,
I've managed my own business finances long enough to experience what he talks about in the book is so true. As small business owners, we generally operate on this premise of like, income minus expenses equals profit. Well, we're always waiting to take our profit because there's always another expense coming down the
yeah,
pipe, and we rarely pay ourselves like we should. And so the premise of his book is you take your profit first. And there's a lot of other great wisdom and nuggets in that book,
yeah.
Profit First.
His book, Fix This Next, is an amazing book too.
I don't know that I've read that, but I'll check that out because I've read multiple of his books and they're
Yeah,
good. I recommend them. So the other two, real quick, this is getting into kind of a new fascination of mine as of last year in the business realm. But one is called Acquisitional Wealth by Josh Tolley. It's a book about acquiring businesses. So rather than starting them and building them from the ground up, where there's a high rate of failure for startup businesses, just go buy one. And we're coming
yeah,
into
okay,
a season where, with this baby boomer generation aging out, there are going to be millions of business owners
yeah,
looking to unload their businesses, and there's not a lot of people just waiting to buy them. there's tremendous opportunity right now and in the days ahead to go purchase a building or a business that already exists and has a, income already built into it. That was a new concept to me that Josh turned me on to last year. And then the other one, I'm trying to see, it's right here.
I follow Josh on Instagram. He looks like me, or I
Yeah, he
look like
does.
him.
He looks
He's a
like
pretty
you guys
amazing
are
guy,
like
though.
doppelgangers. I read his other book, his first book, Evangelpreneur. It's like the word
Yeah.
evangelical and then entrepreneur. And then I was like, ooh, I need to get this guy on our Entre Pastors podcast. And when I looked him up, I saw he was just coming out with this acquisitional wealth. And I started listening to his conversations around that. And I was like, this is really interesting. And so in that same vein, I just bought this book, Main Street Millionaire by Cody Sanchez. Uh-oh, he's going to pick it up. Have you read it yet?
I have not. I've been drinking her Kool-Aid lately, though.
Dude.
You were talking about the boomer businesses.
This is it. Like, this is basically a similar message of Josh Tolley's book. It's making the case for buying a business instead of starting one and then giving you some, step by step, this is how you do it. So I'm fired up having read those books. I'm excited about it. I've not done it yet. I've not bought a business, but I'm starting more and more to think that way. By the way, I'll just tell you a quick story, David. You'll love this. Last week I was with mastermind I'm in down in Orlando. We met together, and one of the members of our group was saying how he's in an older historic home in the Northeast, and he's wanting to get central air installed, and he's looking down the barrel of a $45,000 bill to have that done.
Wow.
Guess what he said he's going to do? He said, a few blocks away from me, there's an HVAC company that I can buy that is already cash flowing a $200,000 a year salary. He said, I'm going to go buy that business and have them do the work on my home, and then maybe in a few years sell it. He said, for 50,000 down, I can buy that business. And I'm like, see, that's how wealthy people think. Like, that's brilliant. Like, instead of spending 45K, go invest 50 on a business to have the business do the thing. It's like, I was just blown away
crazy,
by that, man. Like, that was worth the price of admission right there, just to think like that. So there you go.
Awesome. I tell you what, now that I know you've got this book, I'm gonna start reading it today. So next week we can talk a little bit about it. Because I got into all this, and because my dad is aging, he's at the boomer age where he should have sold his business years ago. And but the job is the business. Like, he is the business. If he stepped away, it would die.
Okay.
And so that's what he's facing, and it's why nobody wants to buy it. Who wants to buy an 80-hour a week job?
What does he do? What's it in, the business?
It's the exterior remodeling.
Yeah, and he's the only guy that just works for himself.
Him and a couple of old guys.
Yeah. Well, we should talk about that.
That's what I'm facing. Is you got me thinking now, though. I mean, could he's got all these years of experience. Would a handyman type business be easier for him to manage? Because he's already got the trucks, the infrastructure of a business, but doing sunrooms and decks it's not what he needs to be doing at his age.
Where's he located?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, right on the Atlantic.
All right, bro. You and I'll have a lot to talk about when we get together next week. Maybe we'll start a location there too. So who knows where this is going?
Yeah. All right, man. I'm looking forward to it. Tell you what, we've covered a lot here. Anything else you want to throw in that just to leave for the viewers, listeners?
And just a word of encouragement. I don't know what all the, who the makeup of your community is, but I'll tell you one thing I tell pastors often, and I usually close out when I get interviewed on a podcast, and they'll say, is there any last words you want to leave?
Yeah.
I'll often tell pastors, you have way more freedom than you've been led to believe. And that might carry a little bit different implication depending on, the beliefs of your audience and what they, kind of what their worldview is. But a lot of pastors feel like they're very locked into this, this one way of doing ministry, and there's a lot of heaviness around it of I'll disappoint God if I do something different or whatever. But I would just say to anybody listening to this, you have way more freedom than you've been led to believe. We get so locked in these rigid mindsets of like, this is how life has to be. And it's like, who told you that? Who told you that? You have freedom, and lean into that freedom. And if you're not excited about your life when you wake up on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, like let's help you get to a place where you are genuinely excited to get out of bed, hit the ground running. Like, I don't care here's the thing, David, with all the stuff I got going, it doesn't matter what's on my calendar in a day. If I'm going to the fire station, if I'm preaching at church like I did yesterday, if I'm doing podcasting here with Entre Pastor stuff, it's fun. I'm having fun no matter what direction I'm going. It doesn't feel like work. And like, I genuinely wake up excited for each day. So that's possible. And I want that life for other people as well. So let's help you get it. And if I can be of assistance to you, man, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll be an encouragement if I can to anybody that needs a little boost.
All right, man. I appreciate it. And I'll put links to everything in the show notes. And especially if anybody wants to get in touch with Jon about Entre Pastor or perhaps starting a handyman business.
Let's go. We'll knock it out together. So.
All right, Jon. Well, I appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on, David. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, one more thing before we wrap up for good on this podcast. Just came out with another new book, and this is actually, it's going to be the first in the Streams of Income Build a Business guides. And so I'm going to start putting out these smaller booklets about how to start a business doing XYZ. And so this one is about selling custom and print-on-demand merch online. In other words, we're talking about coming up with your own artwork, and don't let me saying that scare you away from it. It's way easier than you think, and I'll talk about that in here. But coming up with your own artwork, slogans, things like that, your own business logos, and making that available for people to buy in print-on-demand fashion on t-shirts, hoodies, hats, coats, aprons, coffee mugs. I mean, the vendor that I use, there's like 75 different items people can order my artwork on. And so the crazy thing is as soon as I say create your own artwork, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not sure about that. I don't use Photoshop, or I don't know how to do that. I don't either. I have a VA actually do most of my artwork. She creates the artwork for me. She does the posting for me. And I talk about that in the book, how you can come up with the business idea, come up with a theme, come up with the ideas for artwork, come up with all these cool or funny slogans and things like that and artwork. And I just realized I said things, like sometimes my Southern comes out. And so, you'll spot that sometimes. But I'll tell you in the book how to do all that stuff way easier than you think, how to have somebody else create the artwork, somebody else do the uploading, because my goal for streams of income, multiple streams of income specifically, is that you're not just adding yet one more side hustle, one more business to an already busy life. I like things like this where you can take things that you're already doing and repurpose it and make more money off of it, especially in a passive manner, or you can start something up and pay somebody a portion of the profits to do it for you. And you're also making money mostly passive. They're doing all the work and you're sharing the money. And so I love things like that. And like, writing books, like publishing books, once it's out there, it's passive. You've done the work. So unless you're doing marketing, which you kind of do need to, unless you're doing marketing to push it, the money is passive. The thing's out there and you just get a statement every month or whenever things are selling. Really cool. So check it out. It's going to be the first in a long series of build your own business. I'm not sure on what I'm going to call it yet. Start a business in 30 days. The idea factory. I'm tossing around a lot of ideas for that, but this is the first guide that's coming out in that series. Hope you enjoy.